And now joining us is Amelia Dahl, and she was just sharing with us a tick story with her young son.
Yes, my 5-year-old. Hello, everyone. Good morning. I went and picked my kid, William, up from daycare the other day, and I saw something dark in his ear, and I was like, dude, why do you have dirt in your ear? Come on. And I was like, come here, William. And he came over, and there was a tick inside his ear. That was the reaction I had too, Jim. Ew. But thankfully, we'd gotten it before it had bitten him or crawled deeper inside his ear. And yeah, ticks are out.
Ticks are out, yep. And you know, the thing is, normally we see them in the area where there's going to be that real tall grass, you know, the wooded areas. But the thing that we have to remember is, you know, they can come in to our yards by other animals, our pets. They can come in on us as we're walking. So, I mean, we just need to, I guess the biggest thing I can say is just be on the lookout for them and to know the areas that they're going to be present.
Right. Be on the lookout and keep your yard cleaned up so it's not a welcome home.
Right.
It's not a beach summer vacation for a tick. We want to make it a desert wasteland. Not for us, but for the ticks.
You know, and there is, again, if you are going to be doing some hiking, let's say, you know, there is some precautions that we would just recommend, or if you're going to be doing some mowing of that tall grass, you may want to start thinking about having that, you know, wearing the long-sleeved, long pants with tucking that pants leg into your socks or your boots. And then again, you can use some different sprays that are going to help keep those when you are going, when you know you're going into an area that could be tick infested. Right.
Yeah. I know a lot of people, I've seen a few yards that have yet to be mowed yet this summer. And so, or spring, I guess it technically is. So the grass is getting pretty tall, and that is just a all-you-can-eat buffet for ticks. Yep. They love that tall grass. So if you haven't mowed your lawn yet, you want to make sure, especially that first mowing, that you are protecting yourself. Because, you know, we had a really mild fall, and then we got a lot of snow. And so we kind of put a really nice blanket on those ticks.
Yeah.
It didn't kill them and freeze them off like we hope in the summertime.
And the reason that they like that tall grassed areas, they like that high humidity area. And, you know, when we get a couple little rains like we had, it's also going to, the repopulation and the population is going to be quite large.
Right. So that tall grass, and if you have any leaves laying around, if you didn't clean up your leaves from the fall, now is an even better time to get all of that old dead debris taken out, especially if you have a play area in your backyard. My focus obviously is kids, and so we'll leave the horticulture stuff to Bruce, but when we're talking about kids, we want to avoid using any insect repellent as much as possible. So any risk mitigation that we can do in the environment is better than dousing our children in DEET, because DEET is the only spray that's going to keep those ticks off of you. So some helpful tips to keep ticks away from areas where your kids are playing. Like I said, keep that grass mowed short. There's a very fine line between too short and tall, and you want to keep it in that happy medium.
I'm going to say 2 inches.
2 inches? There we go. Ladies and gentlemen, you heard it from the powers that be, 2 inches.
I normally like in July, you can let it grow taller, but like you said, during this time when the grass is growing, especially if you're going to be using that yard, and you know you're going to be using the yard, if it's got like a daycare, let's say, or you've got high school graduations coming up, and you're going to have an outdoor open house, you know, that's the time we want to, and possibly, again, I don't like seeing a lot of spraying of yards and overspraying, but there are a couple common used garden insecticides that will help if you know you're going to be having an outdoor activity, shindig, we'll go with that, a wedding or something like that, which I do have coming up in June, but that tick season's going to be over.
Knock on wood.
Knock on wood. And it's going to be an outdoor wedding, so knock on wood. But we can help you with those if you have questions. But it's the common ones.
The tall grass. And then they also recommend, if you do have a play place, especially if you have like a daycare and you have a big swing set, creating a barrier of wood chips or gravel around that area. Ticks aren't going to live in rocks. It's not a very inviting place. It's a little too hot. And it's not humid, so they don't like that. So creating that barrier around those toys, keeping your play equipment, decks, patios, patio furniture away from yarn edges and trees. That tends to be where our taller grass grows because, I don't know about you, but I hate weed whacking. You've mowed the lawn, and then it's like, oh, now I have to get out another piece of equipment. So keep it away from those edges, and then discourage unwelcome guests, like Bruce mentioned. Ticks can come in on animals, especially deer. So especially if you live out in kind of the quote unquote country where you have maybe an acre or two of land, and oh yay, the wildlife are coming in, and you see deer and raccoons and neighborhood dogs running around. Those are like the fast track for ticks.
That's right.
It's like hopping on the New York Express train to bring ticks. So just be mindful of that. We just had spring cleanup, so hopefully everybody got rid of all of their old furniture or trash in their yard, but if you have any of that lying around, get it out of there. That again is a welcome habitat for ticks.
And the thing is, if you do find a tick and you do find that it's embedded, don't panic. Most times we can, again, if it's just barely embedded, using a tweezers, going in right at the head and put pressure on and pull up. You should be able. Then once it is removed, take a look, see if you've got all of the head, and if not, then take a look at the wound and then treat it just like a sliver with a sterile needle and try to find the rest.
Yeah, the important thing is don't yank that tick out. When you use that tweezer to pull on the tick, you want to wait until your skin just tense, and then that tick will naturally release. Because if you think about if somebody was pulling on your legs and you were holding on to something and they pulled long enough, you're going to let go. So the same thing happens with a tick. So you want to just pull up until you see that tenting of the skin, and then it will release. Now, do not squish the tick in between your fingers for a few reasons. One, you're providing it another opportunity to bite you. Two, ticks are very hardy creatures. They are not easily killed. So your best thing to do is to flush it down a toilet, suffocate it. So stick it in between two pieces of tape. Then you know it's not going to go anywhere. I always have these like nightmare dreams after I flush a tick down a toilet, thinking that it's going to come back up. Do you guys ever have those, like, you see those videos online where a snake comes up the toilet or things like that? I think the tick's going to do that. It won't really, but that's just a mental thing. So put it in between two pieces of tape, throw it in the garbage, or my husband's personal favorite is to burn it. So if you're out camping, throw it in the fire.
See, now, we did something that you're not supposed to do, but we would use, like the...
alcohol?
No, the match, the heated match.
No.
Hold that close enough.
Blow it out and jab it.
Yeah.
In the rear end.
Yeah. And then they would back themselves out.
Really?
But supposedly.
No, that is not safe practice.
No,
years ago, that was the standard thing to do, though.
Yeah.
Yes, but that was years ago.
Don't listen to Bruce.
As a certified CPR first aid instructor, I'm telling you, do not use a match.
It is not the approved way any longer, yes.
Yes. Or another big one was people would put alcohol over top of it to suffocate it and have it go out. That can take time, and you don't want a tick on you any longer than you have to. So pull the skin up, tent the skin, let it naturally release, and then dispose of it by killing it handedly. And when we're talking about tick control on kids, make sure that you're reading the label. Like I mentioned, products that contain DEET are the most effective way to repel ticks if you are out, say, for a forest hike or out in the Badlands. The best way to repel ticks. I'm not suggesting that you douse your children in DEET to go out and play in the backyard, because there's environmental factors that we can mitigate to help that. But if you do use DEET on your kids, make sure that you're reading the label and following those directions very carefully. We only want to apply DEET with 20 to 30% DEET, and it will last several hours. Higher concentration DEET are available, but evidence suggests that there may not be much added protection with higher concentration. So just because you have a higher percentage in your bug spray is not keeping a higher percentage of the bugs away. So 20-30% is what we want to look for. If you do go heavy duty with permethrin,
there you go,
based repellents, those are only to be applied to clothes and not recommended for kids. Make sure that you do not over apply repellents and only use enough to cover the desired area. You don't want your clothes to be wet after you spray insect repellent on it.
It's the old, if a little is good, more is better, and which is totally wrong.
No.
And almost, it's, again, read the label. They're there for a reason. The research will back up the label, and if you follow that, you're going to have your best chance
of results,
repelling or success.
And make sure with kids especially, try and do the long sleeve, long shirts, socks tucked in preventative measures, because the less of that DEET product we can use on our kids, the better. Especially if you're going to be out hiking, you can get lightweight long shirts. They're not going to be hot, but they're going to be protected not only from ticks and mosquitoes, all those other bugs, but also from the sun, which is a lot of times what we North Dakotans forget about during the summertime, because we haven't seen the sun in so long that we're like, sunshine! Yeah. And we go all out, and we're out there in our tank tops, and our light Norwegian skin hasn't seen the light of day for God knows how long, and we get sunburned, and sunburns are not good. I gave my 17-year-old niece a lecture this past weekend. She was outside for like 8 hours. She put sunscreen on her legs and on her shoulders and her back of her neck and everything, but she forgot the top of her feet.
Oh,
and she had like the strappy sandals on, and I was like, Chelsea, you have to put sunscreen on your feet. She's like, I always forget, and besides, the tan lines look cool. Ugh, no. Yeah. Tan lines may look cool now, but melanoma is not going to look cool later. So I want to make sure that you're protecting yourself not only from ticks, but also from that sun. Mm-hmm. So that's my soapbox on ticks. Make sure that when you come inside, whether you are in an area that you expect ticks to be or not, especially this time of year, make sure you're checking for ticks. They like it warm. That's where they want to be. So check the ear, behind the ear, along your hairline is also really good. That's really easy to do on somebody who's blonde or gray haired, a little more difficult to do with somebody with darker hair, but make sure you're taking the time, fill up their scalp, make sure there's nothing in there. Armpits are another big place that they like to hide. If you are female, under your underwire, under your bras, make sure you're checking there, and then any groin areas and behind the knees, because those are all of our warm places that ticks like to hide, and we want to make sure that we get them off as soon as possible. If you have been outside for a long period of time in a wooded area, hiking, when you get back home, immediately take your clothes off, throw them in the washer. If there's something on there, they will be washed away, and then make sure you are using a dryer setting to dry those clothes, just in case anything survived the wash. You're going to kill it with the heat. And then immediately take a shower and do a tick check. So, and kids get annoyed by this. The other day, after I found that tick on my one child, I was like, Owen, come here. And I was checking his head. Thankfully, both my kids are blonde, so you can see pretty easily on their head. But I was checking them everywhere, and they're like, Mom. And I'm like, dude, do you want another one of those bugs on you? Because I showed him what it looked like, and he told me it was gross. And I'm like, yes, it is gross. So, and you don't want to know what it does. Like, it sucks your blood. It's gross. So help educate those kids on ticks and help keep them safe.